An adult entertainer and model who is a contestant on a current reality show on the Zeus network was unalived after he was fatally shot trying to protect his cousin. Jay Hefner, as a lot of people would know him in the industry that he was in, whose real name is Saiveon Hopkins, traveled from his home in Canada to visit his hometown of Nebraska for a family birthday celebration, not knowing that it would cost him his life.
Was killed. It's our other top story tonight, the family mourning after a loved one was murdered in downtown Lincoln over the weekend. Channel 8's Mackenzie Johnson was at a candlelight vigil for him tonight. Mackenzie, how is the family doing?
Rod, Saiveon Hopkins' family is heartbroken after his death. Tonight, through the tears and hurt, they're gathering together for strength. Saiveon Hopkins' family says he was taking his mother to the Husker football game on Saturday night. He was shot and killed near 11th and P Streets after several fights broke out, according to police. Devastation weighing heavily on his family now as they try to cope with his death. Saiveon grew up here in Lincoln. His family and friends here gathering on Tuesday night to grieve the loss of someone they love. With balloons and a picture, they spoke about how giving and kind he was to everyone. Saiveon's friends tell me he always had a smile on his face.
The 24-year-old was with his cousin in the early mornings of September 8th, 2024 in downtown Lincoln, Nebraska, in front of a bar when several fights broke out. Hopkins was attempting to protect his cousin while all of this was happening when a man now identified as Kavion Knight, 20 years old, pulled a handgun out and shot Hopkins twice before he fled the scene in a black Honda Pilot several blocks away. Now, police said when they got to the scene, they saw several victims with gunshot wounds. Hopkins, he was shot twice, though. He was rushed to a hospital where, unfortunately, he died from his injuries. The other two male victims, they didn't succumb to their injuries and survived. Now, police reviewed video footage from nearby businesses, and it led them to arresting both Knight and Gregory Bahati, who is 30 years old. And this was a month after Hopkins was unalived, so he was killed last September. And a lot of people aren't posting an update that they arrested these two men in connection to his death. So after police went and did that, like I said, they arrested both suspects. And according to police, they say that there were several fights that broke out on that early morning. But Hopkins, he wasn't involved in any of the fights, and that they do know the motive, but they haven't released it to the public. And the police did hold a press conference, and I'll play the video right here.
Today to provide an update and answer some questions related to the murder of Saiveon Hopkins that occurred on September 8th near 11th and O Streets. On Wednesday, October 16th, 23-year-old Kavion Wright of Omaha, Nebraska, was arrested for first-degree murder, use of a firearm to commit a felony, and 2 counts of second-degree assault. Investigators also arrested 30-year-old Gregory Bahati of Omaha, Nebraska, for aid and abet first-degree murder, aid and abet use of a firearm to commit a felony, and aid and abet 2 counts of second-degree assault. The Lincoln Police Department would like to thank our criminal investigators and members of our crime analysis unit for their dedication and tireless efforts to hold those responsible accountable for their actions. We would also like to extend our gratitude to the Omaha Police Department and specifically their homicide, felony assault, gang, and intelligence units for their assistance in this ongoing investigation. Additional thanks to the Omaha Police Department SWAT team, the United States Marshals Fugitive Task Force, and the Douglas County Sheriff's Office for their assistance with the apprehension of Wright and Bahati yesterday. Our local businesses and community members played a critical role in this investigation, and we are thankful for their willingness to assist in this ongoing case. After reviewing video and other digital evidence and interviewing dozens of witnesses, our investigators have made the following determinations. On September 8th, shortly after 1 a.m., a series of disturbances and fights took place near 11th and O Streets. While those incidents unfolded, Wright, Bahati, and Hopkins were in the area. However, they were not actively involved in those fights. Just prior to the shooting taking place, Bahati had a minor involvement in one of the fights. Bahati disengaged from the fight, turned and looked towards the area where Hopkins and Wright were standing, and said, "Shoot him," while pointing in the direction of Hopkins. Wright, who was standing behind Hopkins, produced a firearm and fired at least 2 rounds before fleeing the scene. Those rounds ultimately struck Hopkins and led to his death. Video evidence showed Wright flee to a vehicle a few blocks away. That vehicle, a 2021 black Honda Pilot, was owned by a family member of Bahati. While working in conjunction with the Omaha Police Department, investigators were able to determine, based on video surveillance, that Wright had left his residence in Omaha around 11 p.m., just before, a couple hours before the shooting, wearing the same clothing that the person responsible for the shooting was wearing. They also determined that the black Honda Pilot was the vehicle that drove Wright from his residence in Omaha to Lincoln. That same vehicle then returned Wright to his residence after the shooting took place in Lincoln. On October 15th, arrest warrants were issued for Wright and Bahati. In addition, search warrants were issued for the residence of Wright and Bahati up in Omaha, Nebraska. The Lincoln Police Department, in coordination with the Omaha Police Department SWAT team, gang unit, and homicide units, along with the United States Marshals Fugitive Task Force, served those search warrants in Omaha, where Bahati was taken into custody just after 6 o'clock in the morning yesterday at his residence, and Wright was arrested shortly after around noon in Douglas County.
Now, his family went ahead and they made a GoFundMe page for him, which surprises me because of the fact that he had so many careers or jobs, whatever you want to call it. But they did make a GoFundMe page for him. And actually in the description, they also said that he died trying to protect his cousin. I do have to go ahead and say that before I get into the part that surprises me, because he was an adult entertainment star. He was on OF and he was a model. Not only that, but on social media, he showed himself on these vacations, on different islands, wearing expensive jewelry, and he appeared to live a lavish lifestyle, but his family claims to not have the money for his funeral expenses. So it's really crazy what you see or how you see people on social media, and then you see things like this where the family is saying that they can't afford expenses, for his funeral, but yet he appeared to have money and be doing his thing. Also, before he died, he also got his certificate to become a dental assistant. Hopkins eventually went and had his funeral and was laid to rest. Both suspects in this case, now they were charged with first-degree murder and other charges in connection to his death. Just before, Hopkins was a contestant on the Zeus Network reality TV show 2 Ways with Erica Mena. She was on VH1's Love and Hip Hop New York, for those of you who forgot. She went on to other franchises on that show. But yeah, Hopkins was on that show and it's actually airing right now on the network, which is really crazy because obviously he was Unalived. But on the show, Hopkins didn't go by his name. He didn't even go by Jay Hefner. He actually went by Seven on the show. And like I said, it's airing right now. He can be seen physically fighting men in this competition to win over Erica Mena's heart. But I'm not too sure when this was filmed, but I believe it was filmed a little bit before he died, probably several months before he died. And it's kind of confusing because when he died, his girlfriend at the time, he did have a girlfriend at the time of his death, and she came out on social media and she posted a very heartfelt tribute to him. So he was in a relationship at the time of his death, and he, obviously had a girlfriend, but he then was also a contestant on the show that is airing right now, where he is trying to go ahead and, like I said, win over Erica Mena. So it's either him and his girl had an open relationship, or he was just on the show to boost his career and take advantage of the publicity, basically, like a lot of people do when they go on reality TV shows. Hopkins left behind a 10-month-old daughter and a terminally ill mother that he was taking care of. Of course, The two suspects most likely are probably going to be heading to trial, and I will keep you guys updated on every update that I do get on this story. Go ahead and subscribe to my channel. Give it a thumbs up. It's your girl Sin Stacks from blackroommedia.com.